Hi guys, it's Sandy with Trinity Stamps and it is release day. I am so excited not only to be new to the design team this year, but to share this card with you today. This release had so many fun goodies that it was really hard for me to decide which one I wanted to play with first. The Nugs and Kisses stamp and coordinating die set just made me giggle, so I chose that one to make this cute little new baby card. Now, to celebrate the launch of this new release, Trinity Stamps is giving away a $25 shopping spree to their shop. To enter, all you have to do is fill out the brief form below. Deadline to enter is the 22nd of January, and the winners are going to be announced on this YouTube in a post, along with Instagram and their Facebook group on or around the 23rd of January. Make sure that you follow them on Instagram and Facebook also. Now this is a YouTube hop, so make sure you see all the videos in the hop by clicking on the playlist down below. Okay, let's get started. All right, I'm going to start this card using the Outdoor Borders and Scene Builders die set. I'm going to cut out a white picket fence, a couple pieces of grass from a darker green color. I'm going to do 2 of the tree trunks out of brown, 2 tree tops out of a dark green, and then the lighter green. That die is actually to create layers in your tree, but I've decided I wanted to use it as a little bush. I'm going to start with a piece of white cardstock cut at the A2 size, which is 5.5 by 4 1/4. I'm going to lay my top or my largest piece of grass on that piece of white cardstock. I'm using my reusable grip pad. This is one of Trinity Stamps' new products. It's called the Clingy Craftmate, and I absolutely love this thing for ink blending. It just really holds that piece of paper really well. It's easy to clean up and it's easy to peel that paper off. I am going to start with their cloudy stencil along with some tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to lay in some clouds. I'll keep laying in layers of clouds until I get kind of close to where I want my horizon line, and then I'm just going to do a real light coat of solid blue, just because clouds don't go all the way down to the horizon. At least I've never seen them that way. Now I'm watering down a little bit darker Distress Oxide ink. I want to spatter just a little bit on my sky just to give it a little bit of extra dimension and interest. I'm going to use my Clingy Craftmate to hold down my little pieces of grass, and I'm going to dust those edges with a little bit of Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide ink. I'm going to do the exact same thing to my little bushes and my treetops. Again, I am using Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide ink. Now I'm going to water down that ink, and I'm just going to splatter that on my treetops, my bushes, and my 2 layers of grass. Then I'll set those aside and let them dry. Now I'm going to use some liquid glue, and I'm going to glue that largest piece of grass that I've cut onto my white cardstock that's got the sky that's inked in. I'm going to kind of leave that top edge of the grass up and off of that cardstock because I want to layer in the back, or layer in the picket fence in back of those blades of grass. I'm going to put some glue on my little picket fence, and again I'm going to leave that top edge kind of lifted off of that white cardstock so that I can put the tree trunks behind the fence. I'm going to add some glue to my tree trunks and slide them behind my picket fence. And again, I'm leaving that top part of my tree up so that I can glue on the leaves or the foliage of the tree behind that tree trunk. Next, I need to figure out where my little bushes are going to be. I want them to be in front of the picket fence, but kind of behind that thinner layer of grass. So I'm just going to play around with that a little bit. Once I get it where I think I want it, I'll go ahead and glue those down. Now I am intentionally leaving pieces of the die cuts hanging off the side of the card. Those will be trimmed off in just a little bit here. And to finish up my little scene, I'll just go ahead and glue on that top layer of grass. I'm going to trim off these little flyaway die cuts on the edges of my card, and then I'm going to go ahead and take it to my paper trimmer, and I'm going to cut this down to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. I like to border all of my cards, or most of my cards, with another color, so that would be my second layer of the background. My little nugget family is from the Nugs and Kisses stamp set. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that on a piece of Express It blending card. That's what I use for my Copic coloring. And I'm going to be using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I'm going to start coloring my reds. I'm going to be using Copic markers. For the little hearts, I'm using R27, and then I'll put in a little dot here and there of R39. All these areas, red areas, are so teeny that there's really no room to do any type of blending whatsoever. Next, we're going to color in the honey mustard bath that he's taking. Again, I'm using Copic markers. The colors I'm using are Y08, Y19, and YR24. Again, teeny area to color in, so there's not a lot of coloring and not a lot of area for shading. Next, we're going to color in the little sauce container, or is what I'm calling it, his little bathtub. We are using E50, E51, and going back with just a touch of Y23. Super small area, super quick coloring. All right, now we're going to start coloring our little nuggies. At least we have a little bit bigger area to work with. I am going to start in the center of the nugget. I am going to lay down YR23, kind of in the center. And then I'm going to blend out to a Y24. And then I'm going to use a Y26 just to add that darker edge. I'm also going to make sure that I use that Y26 kind of where that little baby nugget is, right to the side of him, kind of to give it a little bit of depth to help it show that he's standing in front of Mama and Daddy Nugget. Once I have those 3 colors applied, I go back in with my YR23 and I just kind of deepen and richen up, what a terrible word, make those colors just a little bit richer. We're going to use a wee bit of R22 to color in those little cheeks and the little inside mouth of the baby nugget. And I mean wee bit because those are wee bit areas to color. Now I'm going to use the coordinating die to cut out my little nuggets. Next, I'm going to use a white gel pen to add some highlights to my little nuggets. And guys, I've got to be really honest with you. I am the worst at white gel pen highlights. I either do way too many, I don't do enough. Sometimes I feel like I don't know where to put it. Anyway, that is my big struggle. I keep working on it. Eventually, I'm sure someday it's going to click, but ugh, it's a tough one. As I was laying out my card, I was trying to figure out where my little family fit best, and it just seemed totally naked and unfinished by putting them in the center. So I decided to set them off to the side and then cut out another little bush piece and use that for my sentiment. That just kind of filled in that bottom area and made it look a little bit more balanced. I knew that I didn't need the full bush to be on the bottom of the card, so I went ahead and I heat embossed using white embossing powder the sentiment more toward the left side of the bush, so that it would be a little bit more balanced on the bottom of my card. Once I had my pieces figured out for the bottom of the card, then it felt like the top of my card was a little bit naked. So I went to my stash and I pulled out one of Trinity's older die set. It's called Banner Builder. And I cut out a couple streamers from cardstock. At first I thought I would just use yellow, but that just didn't feel right. So I wound up using a piece of red cardstock and a piece of yellow cardstock. And I think that just kind of filled in the top part nicely. If you don't have that banner, you can always use the little birds that come with the outdoor borders and scene builders to fill in that sky. The little bush that had the sentiment heat embossed on it needed to match the rest of the card. So I needed to kind of shade my outside edges with the Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide ink. And then I needed to kind of spatter it. I didn't want the spatter to hit the lettering on the sentiment, so I went ahead and just kind of cut a piece of the mint tape and covered that up, and then went ahead and just spattered that little piece of bush. I like to add dimension to my cards, so I am going to use some little foam squares to pop up my nuggets and to pop up my little bush at the bottom of the card. I believe these are a 2mm thick dot. A lot of times I use 1mm if I don't want it too poofy, but I thought I could get away with it on this card because I had so many layers of cardstock. For my little banner pieces, I just wound up cutting my smallest little foam dot in half and placing those on the back of each one of those little puffy parts, and then place those on my card. All I have left to do to finish up this card is glue the little part that we created the scene on onto another piece of cardstock. I am using a red piece of cardstock cut at the usual A2 size, which is 5.5 by 4 1/4. Once I have that done, it is ready to be applied to a card base. I just love the way this card turned out. It was such a fun idea to use chicken nuggets to announce a new baby. All right, don't forget we're celebrating the launch of this new release, and Trinity Stamps is giving away a $25 shopping spree to their shop. Make sure you fill out the form down below. The deadline to enter is January 22nd. And the winners are going to be announced on the Trinity Stamps YouTube in a post, their Instagram, and Facebook group on or around the 23rd. Okay, thank you so much for stopping by and spending some time with me today. I hope you have an amazing day. Bye-bye.